Very. Evening. Yeah. Looked like it came from a dress up. How are you? He has that thing hanging from that. Hey, but his is no, it doesn't. It's good that it doesn't, by the way.
How's life up there?
All right.
Just all right?
Can't complain. Don't do any good. Nobody listens. So.
Not even the wife or kids? The
No,
dog?
she gave up doing that years ago.
The dogs listen when I have treats in my hand.
Sometimes, like you said, if you got a treat, then he'll kind of listen. Otherwise, he kind of goes whichever way he wants to do. So.
They trade me for a piece of bacon. All right. What's that? Bacon? Oh, yeah. You know, what do you do? Dang. So Saturday morning, my wife is, I eat this toast for breakfast, but Saturday, bacon, eggs, and potatoes. Sure. So then I have to have two all. So I always have to give them their own scrambled egg, have a piece of on top. So the wife usually sleep it in. I eat them all, but eat each other's look at me.
That's a kind of a nice tradition.
They like it. They support it. I bet you they're after you don't have it right. So I let them outside.
All right.
Robert?
All right.
Where I am.
What's that?
What's underneath there? Anything?
No, it's gone.
It's gone. I thought.
It was an alternative, either get rid of it or go live out my shop, which has no heat. So I decided, well, I'll get rid of it.
I'll bet you look 20 years younger under that.
Somebody said I look better with the whiskers, so I don't, I don't know. But it's gone. It's history. New Year's Day, it disappeared.
We haven't noticed till now.
Who's that? You?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen you since then. New Year's Day.
God, it is just January, isn't it?
Yeah.
God. These short naps are great.
You know, my biggest,
No?
I always say I come from the zoning closet, so I can ask them tomorrow.
what,
What's in the bag.
We just have to remember to turn. They're all muted right now.
walks like a duck, looks like a duck.
Am I supposed to do that today?
No, I just did that.
Okay. Thank you. And everybody has to talk into
And
this.
she was concerned there was a customer that hadn't paid.
It's like you're
I know
doing-
Gary else said this. I just
You
said,
want to adjust,
what am I gonna do? I
Uh-huh.
said, give it time.
keep them a little
Yeah,
bigger
so I
range.
had it up there.
Yeah?
Have to go, she was gonna try to sell her camper, but that didn't. work out, so I-
Oh, okay.
We talked a little bit. She
Boy,
says,
that's
guess what?
that's the
That
voting.
guy that she was worried
No, this is
about,
just a audio.
Oh.
he paid. I said, I figured.
All the mics and.
Most of
wired
them,
into
unless
the
they're real
computer.
shysters, they knew Gary and,
Should I move
you
this
know, the
so I can?
situation by now. everybody
No,
knows
you
calls.
don't have to mess with it. unless
Okay.
Somebody's just out of line. then you can,
Yeah, then
You
I'll
just come
run
over here
over
and mute 'em.
there, yeah. Thank you.
You use that instead of your gun.
Take it over to Gary Boone's. I said, I'd be glad to. 'Cause she don't know him, don't know him.
You were taking.
I said, I'll go along with you someday, just let me know when. Maybe Linda can give her some pointers. I know who she is, but otherwise she's quite outspoken, I heard.
Okay.
Gary Boone's wife.
Hi,
Linda.
Mary.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Coming tomorrow, Thursday.
Yeah. 5? Yep. Are you coming?
I want to.
What's that?
I'm gonna try to make it. I have another meeting at 3:45.
Oh. Here?
No, at the library.
Oh.
I should be able to make it.
It's in the demonstration.
See, Jerry's not gonna be here. I think he's gonna be- he was not gonna be at all.
Oh, that
Hey, Larry.
look at in Paloma?
Yeah. You want a candy store there, out of Wagner's old place? Just past the town hall.
Mine here, miss.
No, isn't there one in Paloma?
Here.
I don't think so. Deerfield, I think. I think it's Deerfield, or no. Somebody's got.
Jane says it's snowing in Milwaukee. Yeah, not bad though.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Is it 7?
I might have been looking at something
I
different.
think it is, okay. I'll call the meeting to order. Megan will do roll call, please.
Mr. Bonfiglio,
Here.
Mr. Piaski,
Here.
Mr. Tim,
Here.
Mr. Cap, Mr. Eckstein,
Here.
Mr. Jarvis,
Here.
Mrs. Colada,
Here.
Mr. King,
Here.
Mr. Waddle,
Here.
Mr. Lauer was excused, and Mr. Kirschner.
Here.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll stand for silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'll entertain a motion to approve the agendas printed. Motion by Mr. Bonfiglio. Second by Mr. Jarvis. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the December 15th, 2020 monthly meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Waddle, second by Mr. Eckstein. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have no unfinished business, so we'll go right to our new business, which is reports and presentations. The first one being County Administrator's Monthly Report. Mr. Civic.
Madam Chair, if I could ask leave to waive the monthly report and just go into the annual report. Very
Won't
good.
get an argument by me.
All right, okay. Let's see. Thanks. So another year, and what a year it's been. I know that you get a lot of these reports from other department directors, and usually those reports are heavy on numbers. And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, but what I try to do every year is give you a broader based view of the county's government. There are numbers every month at the personnel committee meeting. We have numbers on employees, vacancies, things of that sort. And if you're not a member of the personnel committee, or you don't attend the personnel committee, those that data is available online with those meeting minutes. Likewise, the biggest activity that you do and that I do every year is I formulate the annual budget and you approve it, and that's obviously heavy on numbers. But what I want to do is I want to talk about some things in general. I have 3 quotes that I think gives us the theme for this presentation and what I want to discuss tonight. The first is Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast. And that's a quote from Peter Drucker. And I don't know if any of you know who Peter Drucker is. I know Mr. Korleski back here does because he's mentioned Mr. Drucker in his college classes that he's taught. And I suspect that Mr. Bonfiglio knows who Mr. Drucker is because he works for a large corporation. But for those of you who don't, Peter Drucker was a management expert or guru or whatever you want to call him. He started one of the first MBA, Masters of Business Administration programs in the United States in the early 50s. I can't remember what university in California. But Drucker was a consultant, and one of his earliest jobs was with General Motors in the early 1950s. In fact, his report and his recommendations didn't go over too well because Alfred P. Sloan, who was the CEO of GM at that time, forbade GM employees from ever mentioning Mr. Drucker's name and his presence, so that didn't go over too well. But basically, the state of management in the early 1950s for companies like General Motors or for government or nonprofit entities was you would come up with a strategy, you would have number crunching, you would say, okay, we have so many employees doing this and that, we have the price of steel to make these cars, we distribute them to our dealership networks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Drucker said, no, you're going about this all wrong, General Motors. What you really need to concentrate is on the culture you have there. And the culture you have there is not a good culture, and it's not effective for doing the best job that GM could do for competing in the marketplace. And the reason for that was General Motors was a unionized and still is unionized company. And there was a lot of conflict between labor and management, and they didn't work together, and they often were at loggerheads with each other. Now, that wasn't necessarily a problem in the 50s and 60s because General Motors, after the Second World War, pretty much had the world auto market to itself. So Drucker his recommendations didn't go over well in Detroit with GM. But where they did go over real well was Drucker went over to Japan, and he advised the Japanese manufacturers whose economy was destroyed by the Second World War. And what you saw was the Japanese adopted Drucker's dogma as far as culture went. And you saw the effects of that in the 1970s and the 1980s when the Japanese were beginning to really eat the lunch, or no pun intended, of the American manufacturers. And it wasn't until the 1980s that the American manufacturers began to adopt Drucker's philosophy. So the point I want to make here is we can have the best managers in the world. We can have the best plans in the world. We can have a great flow chart for the organization. But if we don't have the right culture for providing the best service to the people with Waushara County, we're going to fail, or at least we're going to struggle. And the other point I want to make is the people who create and maintain the culture for Waushara County government, good or bad, is U11. I can manage this place, but basically what I can do and what I can't do is going to be pretty much dictated by you. So I want you to be mindful of that as we deal with day-to-day issues, and particularly as we deal with the crises that we are facing right now. The second quote I like too. This is from Steve Jobs of Apple. If you want to make everyone happy, don't be a leader, sell ice cream. And Steve Jobs had 2 tours of duty with Apple in the late 70s when he founded the company with Steve Wozniak. It was the fastest new corporation to ascend to the Fortune 500. I think it was maybe 3-4 years after its founding. It was on the Fortune 500. It made an enormous amount of money. In the 1980s, the board at Apple tossed Steve Jobs to the curb. He came back in the late 1990s when the company was just about bankrupt. And basically, his second tour of duty was even more spectacular than the first, because Steve Jobs was the kind of guy who didn't predict the future. He actually created it. And the things that he came up with, if you remember back in the early part of this century, the iPod, he went ahead and developed this machine, so to speak, where you could store, I don't know, 5,000 songs on there. Now, nobody really was walking around and saying, I want to have 5,000 songs strapped to my hip that I can play at any time. But he realized that that was something that people would want, and lo and behold, they did. Same thing with these iPhones and smartphones. You got a phone, you've got email, you can surf the net, you have the GPS. All those things were done separately, but Jobs knew that this was something that could be done in one product, and people would go for it, and lo and behold, they did. Now, when Jobs was running Apple and he was developing these products, he was not a nice man. He was not popular with a lot of people who worked at Apple, but they didn't leave primarily because he made all of them millionaires and some of them billionaires. But he was somebody who pushed for excellence because he knew that the status quo, or just, getting by in the world of personal computing or electronics, was not going to be sufficient. And he knew that he wasn't going to be popular, but he certainly was very successful. And I put that up there to emphasize that I think sometimes there's conflict between myself and the board, and that my role here isn't to be the most popular boy at the courthouse. If it was, you could probably have somebody else do that. My role here is to take the limited resources we have and to do the best job we can with those resources, and resources in terms of money and in terms of personnel, to provide the services the people with Waushara County need. And times are getting tougher all the time. The demand for services is going up, and the revenue that we have to pay for them is rather stagnant. Third quote: politics is more difficult than physics. That's from Albert Einstein. The context of this: Einstein said this in the late 1940s, after the atomic bomb had been developed. I think he talked about it after the Soviet Union they didn't really develop it, they stole it, the technology for the atomic bomb. But people were very much on edge because the nuclear annihilation was a very real possibility. And Einstein was asked, how is it that human beings can be so creative and so ingenious to develop this weapon system that can basically wipe humanity off the face of the earth, and yet they can't get together to take action that would be in the best interest of humanity? And now they were talking about international politics there, but it also is applicable to us, local politics. And Einstein said, because politics is more difficult than physics. It's a lot easier with physics, with the science, than it is with the interpersonal relationships. And I bring that up because sometimes we have to realize that doing things, we may feel that it's a good thing to do because it's we view a lot of things as a zero-sum game or a competition. But what we have to keep in mind is everything we do has to be in the best interest of the people we serve. And we all serve the same people. And again, that's the people with Waushara County. So what I'm trying to do, and what I've been trying to do over the last 4 years, is change the culture of this place, not just because Peter Drucker says so, but because if we have a good functional culture for county government, we can do far better than what we've done before. So this is where we're at with our culture. Previous, we had no clearly defined chain of command. What I've tried to instill in people is a clearly defined chain of command, with managers being responsible for protecting subordinates. Now, some of you have noticed that when I'm on occasions where I have a subordinate employee go around me, I become very irritated, not because I'm an authoritarian or I'm worried about losing power, but because when people don't know who they answer to, we get chaos. And we had a chaotic situation before I arrived. Now, a lot of that was the function of the form of government you had, whereas U11 not only made policy, but you actually had the ultimate managerial authority. And because of that, county managers and county employees weren't sure who they answered to, because at times they would have the board tell them what to do. At times they might have individual supervisors. At times they might have a committee do it. And I can tell you, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating, when employees are not sure what to do, they cope by doing as little as possible. And that's how we've gotten into some of the pickles we have here, such as these buildings need to be renovated. And that's been obvious for years and years and years, but we're not taking it on until now because we didn't have the right culture to do that. Likewise, this applies to me. Every once in a while, I'll have an employee or a departed employee, either who was terminated or resigned instead of being terminated, and they'll contact me and they'll want me to intervene on their behalf, or they might want me to intervene on their behalf for something else. And I steadfastly refuse to do so. And the reason why I refuse to do so is because if I get involved in those things, I jump out of the chain of command and try to take something over. I undermine my subordinate, the department directors and other managers. And that, again, does the same sort of damage that I referred to earlier. And it's not a good way to manage an organization. Previously, we didn't have consistency in applying and enforcing policies. One of the things, and I'm a stickler, and it's probably because I'm anal retentive and I cut my teeth as a lawyer, I insist the policies be applied consistently, and I insist we adhere to Wisconsin laws that govern county government, even if we can get away with violating those laws, because we don't have people looking over our shoulder all the time. And the important thing there is, if you remain consistent, you tend to stay out of trouble. And I don't want policies or regulations or whatever we may do to be enforced one way because we like somebody and another way because we don't like that person. It's not fair to employees, and it's also corrosive to morale. Previously, we didn't have any long-range planning. We tended to kick the can down the road. We took the path of least resistance. What we're doing now is we take on tough projects. We're making tough decisions, an eye to the future. And again, we'll touch on this in a minute, but the buildings renovation project is obvious. That was a situation where I know you're all sitting here and you can see water stains and you can see other ways when you walk into the building and you see maintenance that needs to be done. And I know that there was some sort of half-hearted attempts made to get these buildings into shape, but it was never done. And the reason it was never done is because you didn't have a culture that valued proactive leadership. You had a culture that valued taking the path of least resistance, people wanting not to ruffle feathers, to everybody to agree on something. And the 11 of you, I can guarantee you, wouldn't be able to agree on where to have dinner tonight. So when you're talking about a far more complex decision as to what to do with these buildings, you need somebody, you need a culture of management, and you as elected leaders to understand that regardless of what you do, you're going to make people angry, and you have to remain steadfast in the face of that. Because again, if you want to be popular with everybody, you need to sell ice cream. You can't run a government. You can't effectively serve the people. So we need a culture that doesn't necessarily reward proactive leadership, but at least does not punish it. Previously, we had limited cohesiveness amongst the employees and departments. Presently, I've preached to all the employees with the unified county mission, which essentially is every employee who works here and every department with this county government supports the efforts of everyone else. So the sheriff's department supports what the Department of Aging Services is doing, and all the other departments as well. That's not just to team build, it's also because it's more efficient. If we have everybody on the same page, we don't have resources. And resources aren't just money, it's also time and effort. We don't have resources being wasted because people are at loggerheads with each other. And that goes back to a culture of proactive leadership and management. These are some of our new culture successes, and I just want to go over these. And you can read this on your own. But basically, the two big things that we've been dealing with the last year has been this pandemic and the recession. And I want to point out some things, and I guess we're going to do some bragging here, but it's not bragging if you can back it up, and we can back it up. Mr. Diesterhoff, I think, is here, and he monitors these things far more than I do. But Waushara County has one of the lowest infection and death rates per capita of Wisconsin counties. That's not by accident. In fact, that's even more amazing because Waushara County is not an isolated county. It's a commuter county. People on the east side work and shop in the Fox cities, which is a COVID hotspot. People on the west side, they tend to get on the interstate and go up to Rapids and Plover and Stevens Point, maybe even as far as Wausau. So you have people leaving the county and coming back every single day. And there's with that travel, you have a possibility of bringing back the virus and infecting people here. But we've been able to keep that under control. Furthermore, we're the only local government in this region that has not shuttered its buildings or suspended its operations. That doesn't mean that we've not had problems. What it means is our proactive leadership and our proactive management has managed this crisis, has put into place best practices, has emphasized with the employees that we need them to take measures when they're here at work, and we need them to stay at home when they're sick or they've been exposed to somebody. And by doing that, and by not punishing employees for fessing up and telling us when they're sick or when they've been exposed, we've been able to keep this place under control with minimal disruption to our operations. That's not the case in many counties in Wisconsin and throughout the country. And it's not even the case for some of our municipalities here in Waushara County. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that last point. These efforts have prevented illnesses and many deaths. We have 24 people who've died with COVID-related deaths. Every one of those lives is very important, but that could have been a lot higher if we had not been proactive and tackled this every day. And in fact, Mrs. Collada, I believe, is the only one who's attended our COVID task force meeting, which, by the way, here's my commercial message for you. We have that at Wednesday mornings around 8:10 a.m. over in Public Health, because we get together, and it's not a public meeting, but you're invited as supervisors if you want to attend to see how we're managing this. But we get together, we speak frankly, we speak bluntly to each other, and we manage this problem. And we've done it pretty darn well. Same thing with the recession. Here in Waushara County, we've not had to lay anybody off. We're not reducing services. We've even increased services when necessary, and there has been an increased demand for services, particularly economic support with human services, or we have an increase in substance abuse and mental health issues. We are tackling that as well. And we've been as a clearinghouse for local businesses to try to help them to maintain their operations. And one of the things that you may be aware of, we've also acted as a clearinghouse and provided our expertise and our resources to help the towns and the municipalities navigate the complex state and federal regulations surrounding COVID relief. The last thing isn't necessarily related to the recession, except that if we're going to come out of this recession, we need economic development. One of the things that we've done is we've gone ahead and we took on the TRETSI issue, which was an obvious long-term problem, just like the buildings maintenance, that it wasn't until recently that we took that issue on, and we are in the process of not only cleaning up that mess, but putting into place a regional economic development and tourism authority, because what we need here in Waushara County is we need people from outside the area who are not getting county services to come here to spend money that we can tax and use to provide county services to our residents. Buildings renovation, I've more or less touched on that. I guess I'm going to go ahead and steal the thunder of Samuel's group when they're either here next month or March. As part of this project that we're working on, we commissioned a utility study, and they went ahead and looked at our square footage and how many people we have, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't an apples to oranges comparison. It was an apples to apples comparison. And it was an adjoining county that they primarily used for data, so there wasn't any difference in climate. But here's the sad news, people. We are spending $10,000 more per month to heat, cool, and light these buildings than we need to. That's 120 grand a year. That's millions of dollars over the last couple of decades. That's money that we could have used to repair the systems that we have here. So we've got to take this problem on. We've got to stop ignoring it. We've got to stop throwing away the taxpayers' money. And we've got to do it with the understanding that, yes, there are going to be people who are upset about it. There's going to be people upset if we talked about spending $50,000, let alone tens of millions of dollars. But we have to remain strong. We have to have that culture of being proactive, knowing that we're going to have people angry. People are going to be angry at you. Some of you are going to be angry at me, but we have to do this because we owe it to the public. The results we'll have, and hopefully when you approve this buildings renovation project, both the borrowing and the plan, is we'll have immediate and long-term cost savings in maintaining and operating the buildings and county services. Obviously, our heating and cooling and lighting bill will be less. We'll have building and green space available to the community. We'll have an ambulance station that we desperately need in the northwest quadrant of the county. And anybody who knows anything about emergency response knows that time equals lives. We've got guys who are going down a set of slippery steps now that it's winter, having to walk about the length of a football field to the vehicles and get in those and drive away. That takes time, particularly when the weather's bad or the pavement is slippery. It takes even more time, and those seconds count. And if we can go ahead and get a decent facility and get these people out the door with those ambulances, those seconds or those minutes will mean people will live who would otherwise die. And the idea here is doing all these things. The goal is for most of us in this room, we want this place to be in good shape for a period of time, even after we're all on the ground. That's what proactive leadership and management is. It's our gift to people who may not even yet be born, but that's responsible. And that's what we should do when we manage and we lead this county's government. Fiscal reform. We have a unified county mission, as I referred to earlier. We're making more effective use of personnel. One of the things that we're doing is we're trying to not have people who are trained for one thing and doing one thing all the time, every day, all year long, because for some of our departments, their workflow, their workload fluctuates throughout the year with taxes, or like Ms. Cap over here, the county clerk. She just went through a very rough election season, so she was very busy in 2020, but in 2021, hopefully she won't be as busy. So we're trying to use our employees more efficiently, to have them trained in several areas so that we can plug them in to fill those work needs. Because, and I've told some of you this, we have to do it. We can't afford to hire any more employees. This is not a wealthy county. This is not a county with a strong tax base. And you're going to be at the point where you're going to make choices. Either you're going to tax the hell out of the taxpayers, and I know you won't because they'll have your heads if you do, or we're going to slash services, and I know you don't want to do that because, again, they'll have your heads if you do that. So we have to take what we have in terms of money and people, and we have to use them more efficiently. And yes, there's going to be people complaining, and yes, you may be very upset with me, but you need to understand that these decisions are being made. They're difficult decisions, but they're being made on what's in the best interest of the people with Waushara County, and that's always our first priority. We're no longer penny wise, but pound foolish. So when the roof leaks, we don't just put some sort of sealant on the roof. We're now looking at what's the problem up there, and let's get this building and all of our buildings in good shape for the future. Having our voices heard. One of the things that we're really doing is we've improved our relationships and we increased engagement with local, state, and federal elected and appointed officials. Tomorrow at noon, we will have a new president. I will say this, and this isn't a political statement. I have been a local government official in the tail end of the Clinton administration, the Bush, Obama, and the Trump administration, and I believe you should give people credit where credit is due. The Trump administration has probably did more for outreach to local government officials, so they should be commended for that. I'm hoping that the Biden administration follows through on that, but we'll see. One good thing about the Biden administration, I don't know if this is going to happen because it still has to get to the Congress, and not elect gets to the Congress. President-elect Biden has a proposed almost $2 trillion COVID relief bill. And part of that, and this has been absent from the Trump bills and the Mitch McConnell bills and the Nancy Pelosi bills, the Biden bill has, I believe, either $325 or $300 billion in assistance to state and local governments, and we really desperately need that because we're on the front lines. We're in the trenches. We're providing these services. It's not Washington. Washington provides money, but they don't provide the services, and we desperately need that assistance. So I'm hoping that that goes through. We have increased involvement and influence over organizations serving to existing to serve our interests. And there's the alphabet, WCA, you know what that is, NACO, National Association of Counties. One of the good things about COVID is because so much of the activity is online now and through Zoom and WebEx and all these other remote meeting platforms, is I've been able to be far more involved with NACO than I ever was before because I didn't have time and we didn't have the money to travel about to participate in NACO. But now we are Little Waushara County is a player of sorts with the National Association of Counties. WCUTA, that's Utility Tax Association. You have a resolution coming up later on in the evening. Please approve that. ITBEC, that's a tourism consortium that this county belongs to. It stretches from Waushara all the way up to north to Superior because, again, we're trying to make best use of our limited resources by sharing those resources and the expertise and the personnel with sister counties. TRETC, where we've gone ahead and instead of this thing just going on autopilot or a train wreck in progress, we stepped in, we took action, not just this county, but Green Lake and Marquette counties to put an end to that and to begin to repair that. Our standards and expectations, and I can't emphasize this enough, that we be proactive, we control our own destiny, and we stop being passive victims. So we're not going to just sit around and complain about what those jerks in Madison or those jerks in Washington are doing. We're actually going to go ahead and be heard, and we're going to tell them, we don't appreciate you doing this. You need to change your ways. Now, does it happen overnight? No. But like anything else, if you push and you push and push, eventually you'll see some progress. These things take time and they take commitment. And improving the county government takes time and commitment. This is for you. Successes that I want to commend you for. The first one is really important. Our COVID-19 response has not been politicized. Now, I know that this board trends towards the conservative end of the political spectrum, and I know that some of you have opinions about the pandemic, or you did, and maybe they've changed a bit. But unlike other counties, and I watch what goes on in other counties, we did not have any of you, at these meetings saying, we don't want public health doing this. We don't want masks. We don't want, this vaccine or whatever it may be. This is a bunch of nonsense. It's a hoax. That has occurred in other counties. I know of one county where the public health officer quit because of that. I commend you for that. You know that this is a scientific issue. It's not a political issue. And you've let the people trained in medical science and you've let the people trained in management, talk about the science and manage the problem. So I appreciate that. The other thing I want to point out is the 2021 budget process, which occurred last fall in 2020. That was completed without any unnecessary conflict, unlike previous budget processes. I appreciate that as well, because this budget was very difficult, and conflict has its place in government, but unnecessary conflict or conflict born of people not being aware or people not asking questions is something that ultimately is destructive. So thank you for that. Needed improvements. Again, improved and increased communication. I don't know what you're thinking. I shouldn't find out what you're thinking from some third party on the street. I want you to pursue greater knowledge of how government works and Wisconsin County government in particular actually works. Now, I know this has been a rough year. There hasn't been seminars because of COVID, but eventually we will get back into that. And I would like you to make an effort to attend those seminars and find out some of the things that occur and why we do the things we do. And a lot of times people will say, well, we just need some common sense. And many of those folks who say that don't know the underlying reason for the way we do particular things. We need to respect and we need to adhere to the laws governing Waushara County government. Waushara County government essentially is a wholly owned subsidiary of the state of Wisconsin. We really don't have a lot of inherent authority. The authority we have is granted to us by the state of Wisconsin, and this county government and all the other 71 county governments exist primarily, perhaps even solely, to carry out state policies, state directives, state laws. We enforce those. So we have to understand that we can't go rogue on a lot of things. We have to stay within the boundary lines that the state government places on us. And if you don't like those boundary lines, and I don't like some of those boundary lines, the solution is not to violate laws. It's to go to Madison and try to get them changed. We have to understand and respect the difference between policy formulation and management. What you do is very important. What you do is actually more important than what I do, because you make the decision what our priorities are here, how much money we will collect from the public in the form of taxes, and what we will spend that money on. But once you make those decisions and you give that policy to myself or to the other senior management, you have to let us do our jobs. That's what we've been hired to do, and that's what we're trained and we're able to do. The other thing I would like is for you to offer increased input into what we're doing, but understanding that ultimately the decisions, management decisions, are the purview of senior county staff. We have boundary lines here too, between policy formulation and management. I know that transition has been rather difficult because for years and years and years, under the administrative coordinator form of government, the county board actually managed the county, or ultimately managed the county, and that's no longer the case. And you can go back to that if you wish. I haven't heard anybody wanting to do that, though. So that's all I have, Madam Chair. I'm happy to field any questions or hear of any comments from anyone. Any questions?
You forgot East Central Planning and WCHA.
Yes. You hold a leadership position in WCHA, and we actually have been a player in East Central Planning. Again, I'm going to brag a little bit. We took control of a situation that larger counties were not able to resolve, that we went ahead and did, and we'll just leave it at that. And that, again, that's that culture of being proactive. That's the culture of being strong leaders, competent managers. So, are there any other questions? I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Civic. Next, we're going to go to discussion and possible motion action item. The first one being coronavirus-related absences pay policy 2021. It was in our packet. Do you have questions? I think Ruth is here. If you have any questions concerning this,
I have one
John?
When I read through it, I see that it said under the eligibility, all employees actively employed in Waushara County who have received a COVID vaccine, if such vaccine is available. My question is, I know, for religious or political reasons, whatever, some people are refusing to get the vaccine. Are the employees being made aware that they would not be eligible? Because it would state they're not eligible, is that right?
They will be made aware of that. In fact, this is in the embryonic stage. Actually, we're going to engage in a public education effort, not just for the employees, but for the public as well. Okay. And I do understand that there are actually some medical reasons why we actually there's some medical reasons why people can't get the vaccine. They may be immune system compromised, and there are some legitimate religious reasons because of someone's particular faith that they don't get immunizations, and we respect that. But what we're going to try to do, and I know I read in the news today, there was a nursing home in Janesville that actually was owned by Rock County, where they told the staff either you get the vaccine or you're laid off, and that's being battled there. We're not yet at the point where we're going to mandate anything to the employees, particularly because we can't afford the cost of the litigation. So we'll see what the wealthier counties, if they want to litigate a fine, we'll follow whatever the courts say on that. But right now, the point is we are going to educate the employees to do that. And right now, as far as the vaccine goes, it is not widely available. First responders, medical personnel. I think Mr. Diesterhoff, 65 and older, is he here? Yeah. When are we starting that?
We're actually going to start scheduling it.
So the young, athletic 25-year-old guy is going to have to wait a little while.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to hear.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Eckstein, second by Mr. Jarvis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next, we have consideration possible action on the following resolutions. Resolution number 010121, a resolution in support of increased county child support funding. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Eckstein, second by Mr. Cap. Do you have any questions? I think Ms. Stebbins was here last month and did her monthly report, and she kind of, laid the groundwork for this. So we knew it was coming. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, we have resolution number 020121, a resolution to reorganize the Department of Human Services. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Tim. Second by Mr. Jarvis. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution number 030121, resolution to reorganize the Emergency Medical Services Department. Motion by Mr. Kirschner, second by Mr. Waito. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution number 040121, a resolution adopting the Waushara County Park System ADA Accessibility Project Citizen Participation Plan. Motion by Mr. Eckstein, second by Mr. King. Any questions? I know Kevin and Ruth have been doing a lot of work on this, and I think it will be very nice when everything is done. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution number 05-01-21, a resolution authorizing the submission of Community Development Block Grant application for the Park System ADA Accessibility Plan. Motion by Mr. Jarvis. Second by Mr. Eckstein. Do you have any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. A resolution number 06-01-21, extending resolution number 11-5-20 and 20-7-20 and 29-10-20, a resolution issuing an emergency declaration pursuant to section 323-11 Wisconsin statutes. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Eckstein to approve, I assume.
Yes.
Second by Mr. Cap. Do you have any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, resolution 07-01-21, a resolution in support of a more equitable return of utility tax collections to counties and other local governments. This is from the committee that Bob is on, the Utility Tax Committee. And they have they have a couple of senators that are going to present this.
Yeah,
Or
Rob
legislators.
Brooks has been working with us and some of the other members of the legislature. Just I think the resolution is rather self-explanatory, but if you could believe it, the state of Wisconsin has been taking a larger and larger portion of these payments in lieu of taxes that began 50 years ago to compensate local governments because we're the ones that are keeping the roads clear of snow and the telephone poles come down because of ice storms or utility poles. We're out there helping people so that they can maintain service or restore service. Yet we're not getting the funds that utilities pay in lieu of taxes. It's not a problem with the utilities. They don't mind making these payments. It's something that we have to deal with the state government. And again, the problem is because we're a wholly owned subsidiary of the state government, we don't have the authority. So we're cajoling them and trying to shame them into being more equitable in this. The purpose of this resolution is I will go ahead and send it down to Madison. We're hoping that the governor will incorporate this as part of his biennial budget. Do I think we're going to be successful? No, I don't. But if we keep up the pressure, eventually we will.
All right. Yes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Mr. King to approve, second by Mr. Cap. After we get this, then we'll go after our 911 money that we're supposed to be getting, that they stole from us. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution number 08-01-21, acknowledgement of Rebecca Gramsey's service to and retirement from Waushara County.
Motion to
Megan?
approve.
Motion by Mr. Wadle to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Kirschner. Do you want to read that, Megan, for us, please?
Whereas the County of Waushara wishes to take this opportunity to express its appreciation to Rebecca Gramsey for 35 years of service and dedication to Waushara County, and whereas acknowledgement is given to Rebecca Gramsey for the conscientious and dedicated service she gave the citizens of Waushara County, most recently as the Register and Probate. Now therefore be it resolved by the Waushara County Board of Supervisors that the County Board, on behalf of the grateful residents of Waushara County, does hereby commend Rebecca Gramsey for her long, distinguished, and conscientious service, and every good wish goes to Rebecca Gramsey for a long and enjoyable retirement filled with contentment and good health.
Thank you, Megan. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution number 09-01-21, acknowledgement of Dennis Urban's service and retirement from the Waushara County Parks Department. Motion by Mr. Eckstein, second by Mr. Wado. I'll do this one again. Resolution number 09-01-21, acknowledgement of Dennis Urban's service to and retirement from the Waushara County Parks Department. Whereas Mr. Urban began his employment with Waushara County at the Parks Department in April 8th, 1991. And whereas Dennis was appointed to lead the Parks Department as the foreman overseeing maintenance in all of the county parks, and whereas Dennis was instrumental in the development, construction, and maintenance of the hiking, snowshoeing, and cross-country ski trails, and whereas Dennis gave direction to many local youth seasonal employees, guiding them to be caring and responsible young adults, and whereas Mr. Urban's dedication and attention to detail has allowed many citizens and visitors with a spectacular park system that will continue to be a jewel in the community for many years to come. And whereas Dennis Urban served the county with distinction for over 29 years as an employee until his retirement on December 28, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved by the Waushara County Board of Supervisors, which on behalf of the grateful residents of Waushara County, does hereby commend Dennis Urban for his long, distinguished, and conscientious service as foreman of the Parks Department. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be shared with Mr. Urban, along with best wishes for a long and enjoyable retirement filled with contentment and good health. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And we've been told that Mr. Urban is still coming back in to help with the the food program out at the fairgrounds.
Oh, Feed America.
Yeah, Feed America, that's what. But he's still coming back in to do that, and he's very active with the the military that does the funerals and things, the honor guard. So he's staying busy. All right. Next, we have resolution 10-01-21, acknowledgement of Melody Sima's service to Waushara County. Motion by Mr. Kirschner, second by Mr. Tim. Megan, would you like to do that one? please.
Whereas Melody Simos was hired with the Public Health Department on January 13th, 1997 as a public health nurse and transitioned into a human services behavioral health nurse after years of providing services to the behavioral health unit through a memorandum of understanding between Public Health and the Department of Human Services in January of 2020. And whereas Melody Simos has been a key employee in the implementation of telehealth services within the behavioral health unit of the Department of Human Services. And whereas Melanie Simos coordinates care for all of the psychiatric services provided by Waushara County, connecting consumers to the services they need. And whereas Melanie Simos is integral to the community support program, coordinating with treatment facilities, group homes, and others to serve all consumers where they live. And whereas we acknowledge and thank Melody for her dedicated and conscientious service, diligently serving Waushara County for the last 23 years with compassion, empathy, and dignity for all consumers, providers, and coworkers. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Waushara County Board of Supervisors that the County Board, on behalf of the grateful citizens of Waushara County and the employees of Waushara County, does hereby commend Melanie Simos for her many dedicated and compassionate hours of service with the Waushara County Department of Public Health and Department of Human Services. We wish Melody good health and happiness in her much-deserved retirement.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, don't we?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next we have resolution number 11-01-21, acknowledgement of Kate Surprise's service to Waushara County. Motion by Mr. Jarvis, second by Mr. King. Megan, would you mind? Thank you.
Whereas Kate Surprise was hired with the Department of Social Services, now Department of Human Services, on August 14th, 1989. And whereas Kate started out as a long-term support case manager and held the positions of interim director of the Department of Aging, long-term support supervisor, prior to becoming the economic support manager in 2009. And whereas Kate Surprise has served on multiple committees representing Waushara County, including the WCHSA LTS Policy Advisory Committee, 2003 RCAC Rate Setting Committee, Waushara County Salvation Army, Waushara County Census Committee, and Waushara County Transportation Committee. And whereas Kate Surprise received the 2005 Cornerstone Award Wisconsin from the Association of Area on Aging. And whereas Kate Surprise has dedicated the majority of her career to improving the quality of life of low-income households and serving vulnerable adults. And whereas we acknowledge and thank Kate for her dedicated and conscientious service, diligently serving Waushara County for the last 32 years with joy, dignity, empathy, and compassion as a great mentor, teacher, and teammate. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Waushara County Board of Supervisors that the County Board, on behalf of the grateful citizens of Waushara County and the employees of Waushara County, does hereby commend Kate Surprise for her many dedicated and compassionate hours of service with the Waushara County Department of Social Services and Department of Human Services. We wish Kate good health and happiness in her much-deserved retirement.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next, we have resolution number 12-01-21, acknowledgement of Judy Barton's service to and retirement from Waushara County. Motion by Mr. Eckstein, second by Mr. Kirschner to approve.
Whereas the County of Waushara wishes to take this opportunity to express its appreciation to Judy Burton for 13 years of service and dedication to Waushara County. And whereas acknowledgement is given to Judy for the conscientious and dedicated service she gave the citizens of Waushara County during her years working for the Waushara County Health Department, 13 years which included foot care, car seat technician, lead risk assessor, preparedness communication officer and planning chief, immunization program coordinator, along with communicable disease control and all the many and various daily functions of a public health nurse. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Waushara County Board of Supervisors that the County Board, on behalf of the grateful residents of Waushara County, does hereby commend Judy Burton for her long, distinguished, and conscientious service. Every good wish goes to Judy for a long and enjoyable future filled with contentment and good health.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next we have appointments, and this appointment is going to be for the Marquette Waushara Loan Committee. And that is the committee that, will work with Ruth on the collections of loans from Tredsey. Do you have anything to add, Ruth?
So I think this committee probably only has to be three. There will be two people from Marquette County, two people from Waushara County. The initial meeting will go over the loans that we have outstanding, since the time that we paid the state off the loans. We've had 3 loans paid, so we're down to 17 loans at this moment in time. So we will, discuss what we have active, what needs, some collection work. The majority of those loans are paying. Marquette County has started some collection action on one of the loans, prior to us buying it, and that will continue. So basically, it will be to get just an update on where the payments are, and then to meet if there becomes a problem with the loans, to talk about either if somebody needs to restructure because they're needing another mortgage, if we have a subordination agreement that we need to look at, minor things like that, but I don't anticipate we'll be meeting very often.
John Jarvis has agreed to work on that, with the loan committee, and also Pat King. Okay. Do we have to approve those? Okay.
Motion to approve the 2 nominations.
Motion by Mr. Wado, second by Mr. Cap. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Board suggestions for future agenda items. We'll meet next on February 16th, 2021 at 7 p.m.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Eckstein to adjourn. Second by Mr. Jarvis, we're adjourned. Thank you very much. How's it going, Brandon?
Busy, how are you?
Okay.
Fine, I'm busy too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're supposed to.
yes, because a lot of it is done over the internet, so, yeah, that is less travel. That's good for now.
I wonder how they're gonna, for everybody that goes away, are they?
So how are things going to work, right?
Okay.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm wondering too, and I think there will be a lot more people working from home. Yes, my daughter, I told
What's that?
Buzz, and now her husband is working at home since
Oh.
March.
You mean last meeting?